Welcome to the Women in Business radio show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
Hello and welcome into the Women in Business radio show studio. I'm Sian Murphy. My co-host is, say hello, Adelle.
Hello.
Okay, we are going to be talking in this show about burnout, overwhelm, and just generally, I think, being, well, knackered. Our special guest in the studio, who is going to be helping us out with that, is Jacinta Banks, who is the founder of Finding Your Balance Coaching. She is a health and nutrition coach who is based in Faversham down here with us in Kent. Also in the studio, we have got Jules, who is the founder of the Single Mums Business Network, and we've also got Sam Presnell, who is from the Careers and Enterprise Company, the education people who helps businesses to work with schools and education authorities. So that's got us all into our own nice little boxes and pigeonholes, so we know where we all are. So, Adelle, do you want to tell people how they can listen to us?
Yes, you can listen to us on Spotify, on Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, and then Alexa when you enable the skill.
And how can they... perhaps I should do this. You can connect with us on Twitter at Wib Radio Live, on Instagram at Women in Business Radio, and Facebook and LinkedIn. We are the Women in Business Radio Show. And don't do what we've done. If you go out there and you're setting up your social media profiles for the very first time, try and keep them sort of similar. Don't do this. Don't have everything different. There's a really cool tool that you can go and... I can't remember what it is. I should have shut up, shouldn't I? Where you can go and you can type in what you want your handle to be, and it will tell you if it's available on like thousands of social media platforms and things, because there are thousands of social media platforms. I think we just think about Facebook, Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, don't we? But there are loads of them. I'll try and remember what that's called. I think it might be called Noam. Noam.com. Knowem.
It's probably something really dark and dodgy.
No, it's not. No, I've stopped looking for porn now. It's fine. I'll have a look. You can become a supporting member of the radio show and keep us on air and keep it affordable and accessible for women in business. By going to the womeninbusinessradioshow.com, where there's a little thing that says become a supporting member. Yeah. And so for £7 a month, you get the behind-the-scenes newsletter. Will you stop bashing the table?
I was looking for the big show. What's the big show?
Honestly, I tell you, you can't get this. Trying to find it's honestly, co-host's terrible. Have you found the big show?
I have.
Would you like to say something?
Do you know what? I dropped my phone. I was like, it's August. Oh, my God. It's just come around so quickly.
Well, you always drop your phone in August, do you?
No, I was looking at the big... To be fair, I was looking at the big show.
Yeah, I don't need to know how close it is.
Sorry.
Is that all right?
So I'm thinking it's the 25th of August, the big show in Longfield. And as a privileged to be a sponsor, exhibitor and speaker, I'm thinking... I need to get on with my to-do list. But no, it's going to be amazing. And I think last year we were out of lockdown, but the buzz around this year, everyone is just so excited about coming to meet and share and support business women. Like we said before, this gives women like us a platform at a reasonably low cost to do with what we're doing. And that's why I dropped my phone, because I was like, oh, I've got a to-do list.
Yeah,
and I'm not,
If you are interested in exhibiting, we have exhibitor space from £55 in the main concourse.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is, isn't it?
It gives everyone an opportunity.
And that gives you a profile on the website, on social media, because it goes on for the year until the next one.
It does. And we said, could you go out and have a meal for two for that?
That's it. I tell you what, it's priced at the cost where... If you went out with a mate or a partner, you could go into a certain chicken sort of restaurant and have some chicken,
or build your business
and a glass of wine for and a bit of old cake for that. So there's your choice. Yeah. There's your choice, and we turn nobody away. So if my pockets are getting shallower and shallower. But we don't turn people away. So if you really do need to share what you're doing, we will all just give us contact me, and we'll have a chat with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the Women in Business Big Show. That is on the August the 25th. That's at Longfield. It is very close to Ebbsfleet. Ebbsfleet is 15 minutes from St Pancras, and also it's close to Longfield Station. It's close to the motorway, so it's sort of quite accessible to get there. There's loads and loads of free parking, and it's free to get in as a visitor, or you can buy, which I'd really like you to do one of these, to buy a VIP ticket where you get 2 really special workshops. Future Insights, who are another sponsor, will come in and they will look at the financing behind your business at whatever level you are at. It doesn't matter if you're starting up, they'll help you get going. If you're already established, they'll look at your finances, how it's all running. They'll look at your data. If you're thinking of selling a business, they'll go through and tell you how you can do that. They're super, super, super. That's Mikel Yarni. And like I say, special workshops and things that you can download. And you might be involved with.
I might be involved with one of the VIPs.
VIP
I am.
So, yes. So, and there's somebody else I can't tell you about. Okay, so that's enough of that. Oh, if you are in Kent, we have Cafe in the Car running at Maidstone on Saturday the 6th. That's at Snowfields Academy. We have adult colouring, we've got healing, we've got massage, reflexology, all sorts of things going on. And we are at Longfield Academy on the 7th. You think I'd know this, wouldn't you? A normal woman would write this down.
We're not normal.
She'd have it written down, prepared. So come along and just sort of chill out for the day. Right, that's enough of that. So where are we? We're on a totally different sheet of paper. I tell you what, I should never have organised this. It was much better when I didn't. So we are going to be talking about burnout, but first off, let us have one of our round the table things about what we're doing. So should we start off with what we've learnt this week? What have you learnt this week? Have you learned anything this week? Because we have to learn something new every week. I'll tell you what, we're exhausted. This is a really good way to end up with burnout, actually.
It is. And do you know what? It is for me. I've gone back to my costs. Because I call it cost drift. Okay, we buy a bit of software, we see something. Oh yeah, it's $6.99 a month, and I've got this, and a couple of things have come through. I'm thinking, well, Zoho's doing that. Why am I doing that? So for me, tomorrow is cost review. I'm going back through my costs. Don't just assume because it's $2.99 subscription or $6.99. All those little moments build up. So for me, what I've learnt this week is don't take those costs for granted. Just go back through those costs. And do you really need that bit of software? So that's my job tomorrow morning.
Okie dokie. Jacinta, have you learnt anything this week?
I've also been looking at costs, actually, and considering my fees. So I've been doing some work on that.
I think that's something that we don't do often enough, isn't it? We don't think about how much we're charging. And whether there's something perhaps we can make ourselves more accessible as well by offering a different pricing structure and putting our prices up as well. I think sometimes as women, very often we undervalue what we do, the value that we bring to people. So I like that, reviewing costs.
Yeah.
Jules, what have you learnt this week?
It cemented in me yesterday that my purpose really is bigger than my pride, because I was petrified of attack, but I still stood up for my purpose. So I know that I can do that. I'm going to do it well.
Sam, what have you learnt this week?
That actually there's more days in the week than I think there are, and actually it's okay to stop partway through the day, take some time out for me, and then revisit an activity the next day.
Sometimes you just have to stop, don't you? I'm one for sort of ploughing on through and keeping going, a burning martyr. But sometimes you have to say, do you know, I'm not doing very well at this. I'm not enjoying this at the moment. I'm just going to stop. I've been doing that recently, which is why I've got nothing done.
But no, I agree. I like those.
Okay, let's get through. What have I learnt this week? Actually, I've learnt this week to have, and in fact it's using Zoho as well, so I learnt, this is a bit of a tool recommendation actually, I learnt that on Zoho, on the calendars, where you've got multiple projects, you can actually separate out on the calendars per project or by tag, so you can filter what goes out onto your calendar. So I've now started using multiple calendars, so for something like the Women in Business Big Show, which is quite a big project, I have a separate calendar for that, so I can now look at each thing and say, okay, well, on the 15th, for instance, I need to go and meet with the academy. So that's there, and by this date I need to have contacted the speakers and have done this, and being able to have multiple calendars and strip one out and then put the whole lot together and then put what I need to do for one project in the context of actually what I need to do for everything, so that I don't end up with 25 hours of work on one day.
I like that.
Is really, really useful. Because I run lots and lots of different things. So if you are, is there multi-projectable
piece? Multi-project? Well, yeah, it was a portfolio of projects.
Yeah, I run.
Portfolio, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of stuff going on.
I like that.
And that is really... It just helps me look at each project in isolation. So actually, does this make sense?
When you bring them all together, does that make sense?
Does it make sense in the context of the project and what needs to happen before go day? And does it make sense in the context of everything else that I'm trying to do? Because I run multiple events a month, as well as annual events, and another business.
Yeah. She needs, definitely a portfolio of work then, absolutely.
I achieve nothing at any of them. None of it's actually finished. So I'm hoping I'm hoping
the calendar will get though.
And we've got more stuff coming on.
We've got some more projects coming on. We're building the portfolio out, aren't we?
Yeah. So there's even more now. I'm starting up my own masterminds and all sorts. And
under the brand.
Dale's got a mastermind as well. We're bringing that all together. So basically, we're women who do too much.
For women in business.
Okay, so have you got a book recommendation? I'm telling you now. You mentioned that bloke again. All right. I'm not going to be happy.
No, I haven't. I have. To be honest, I've gone back to a basic book actually, which is The Chimp Paradox.
Oh, okay.
And I have a set of books that I think everyone should read every year, and I've bought this one out because it had come out on Audible. So I've been listening to on that, and there's some really good reminders in it, and about how sometimes we have to keep our chimp under control, even as elegant business women. We do have a chimp, and it's just reminding me how to keep it under control, especially when we're going through, obviously, the M word. It can be a little bit more chimpier than normal.
Jules, have you got a book? And when I say book, it can be Audible, it can be a podcast. I'm looking. Yes, okay. I'm looking at one and talking to you because I can't see. Jacinta, have you got a book or a sort of resource that people can tap into that you would recommend?
I recommend Self-Care for the Modern World. It's written by sisters Nadia Narain and Katya Narain Phillips, and it really is lovely. You can dip in and out of it. You don't have to read it from start to finish, and it's really full of useful and comforting.
Okay. I like
things.
that. Self-Care for the Modern World. Thank you. Jules, you got...
Yeah, I read about 20 years ago, I think, maybe even 30, If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules. It's really good. I've never been a big reader. It's very lightweight, large print, nice. It was all I could cope with reading, probably still even then, but it taught me very early on about greed, about the rules of life and how the universe will give you a little slap on the bottom if you take anything more than you need to and things like that. So a really good book for teaching you
if life is the game, these are the rules.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's good.
I like the sound of that. Sam?
Yeah, I've got one that I've read actually through work, and that's it's called Surrounded by Idiots.
I've seen that on Audible.
by Thomas Erickson.
But it's not what you think, is it?
No. It's actually when you're looking at colour profiling and obviously people's personalities, and actually using that when I've joined a new team. So, of course, it's being able to understand how to get the best out of those people by their different personality traits. And obviously they fall into different categories.
Is that colour squares?
Yeah,
I would know it's coloured squares.
Yeah, there's many different sort of formats it comes
good,
in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson is a really, really good book because it really helps you to understand what makes people tick, how to get the best out of them, how to be able to support them. Obviously, being in a managerial role, is being able to support my team effectively, but also helping them to understand me because I'm a bit like you, Adelle. My chimp is coming to the surface more and more at the moment. So.
So that's Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. That keeps popping up on Audible, and I keep thinking I must get it. Not because I think I'm surrounded by idiots.
It's a really good read. I honestly can't recommend it enough. It's a really good read.
Well, I am still on You know, I'm still on. I am still on. I know.
Me about Mr. B.
I'm still on Eckhart Tolle. You see, and I think I'm justified here because his thing on what he talks about and the power of now and the ego thing, I think subsumes your sort of the paradigm of the chimp thing.
Yeah.
Because I think if you get that, your chimp is under control.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah, Eckhart's like that. Bang on. Yeah.
It is, and this is why I've stopped reading. I all of these, you know, sort your habits out, have your early morning routine, do this, do that. I've stopped reading them now because if you don't get this stuff, the rest of it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It sounds really.
No, it's
odd.
my next on my Audible after this. It's my next one.
There's a podcast that he does with Oprah. Which because when I first read The Power of Now, I thought, I don't know, this is like part of old rubbish, isn't it? I'm looking at there's like 20 squillion people saying it's brilliant, and I'm thinking, well, you know, it must be okay. This is me. Okay, I'm not getting this, and it's true, I wasn't getting it. But then I read it again recently through the Oprah podcasts with him, and I sort of started with little glimpses of, oh, okay, yes, all right, now I can see this. It does sort of make sense. And then I went back and started reading the books, and I thought, oh, okay, boy, does it make a lot of sense. It really does make a lot of sense.
Okay. He's next on my list.
Yeah. So, right. Okay, thank you very much for all of those, folks. We haven't finished. We haven't finished. We introduced this about a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure if we've actually tried it yet, but I'm looking forward to giving it a go. And of course, Adelle and I can't take part in this because it's like a one-off thing, isn't it? We'd have so many of them. It's this one. What's your biggest failure? Anybody going to go first?
I'll go first, Sean. Mine's actually not saying no when I should.
Yes.
And then sort of like regretting that I've taken on extra.
Yeah.
And it's not sort of saying no. And
Okay. Are you doing it now?
no.
Oh. Okay, so not learnt from previous experience.
Absolutely. So
Just
that's
write that down here.
That is something that I really do need to sort of like think about and sort of no, I'm not doing that.
I'll tell you who might help you with that. I think it's Tim Ferriss. He's done a book. I can't remember what it is, which is of no use at all on the radio, is it? But it's where he's interviewed lots of people, and he talks there about what do you say no to, or how do you say no.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I'll have to
Because if you don't, you just have to. I tell you what, the best way I found to say no was to work out what I said yes to, and to say, actually, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I do. And out of that came what I don't do.
Yeah.
And then I learnt to stop saying, I'm sorry, I can't do that, and actually saying, that sounds like a really good project. It's not for me at the moment.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for thinking of me, but it's not for me at the moment. And I think if you're employed and you're saying it to a boss, it's a whole different thing, isn't it? But the way that I used to deal with that was I used to say, okay, this is, and I'm holding up a piece of paper, this is what I'm doing at the moment, and this is how many hours I have to do it. What would you like me to knock off that list to do what you're asking?
Yeah.
I found that worked.
I like that. I should take that away from today. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Biggest failure?
This is a bit raw, but for me, I had a business go bust and lost a lot of money. It was through circumstances that I couldn't control, but it still happened, and it left me absolutely on the floor, having to think about what was going to happen next. And the interesting thing about it, looking back now, is that it set me onto the course I'm on. And apart from having lost the money, it wasn't necessarily such a bad thing in the overall scheme of things.
That's sometimes what happens, isn't it?
Interestingly, that's why I don't choose my life sort of failures, what on paper's failures, like losing house and things, as failures, because they've all been brilliant stepping stones to this. So the actual failure that I don't see how that helped me was when I didn't put oil in the car and it completely killed the engine. I don't see what that taught me. I don't see what the purpose of that was.
Have you done it since?
No.
There you go.
I didn't need to do it at all.
Yeah, but clearly you did. I'm one of those annoying people that say I don't go in for positive thinking. I think sometimes actually, this isn't positive, it's horrible. But sometimes things happen and you break down in a place where it's actually okay, or you haven't got somebody, so you're maybe you're not on your own, or you haven't got your child with you, or you break down in a place where somebody can pick you up, or something can happen and you're not actually in any danger, and you think, I'm not going to do that again, and you don't do it again, and it doesn't happen when perhaps you're more vulnerable.
Yeah, silver linings, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it
true.
doesn't happen when you're vulnerable, and I bet you haven't done it since.
No, so I'm very grateful. Of course I am.
No. It's not that. No, it's not about being grateful. I really don't go in for all of that. I know positive thinking just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
You can't think you can't go, actually, that's really horrible, but hey, look, it's wonderful. I'm going to go, hey, oh no, it's super. Sometimes it just isn't super at all. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But
it's nice though to think the universe was protecting you at a later stage.
Yeah, could have been worse.
Yeah.
It's quite similar.
Look on the bright side.
Yeah, I put petrol in a diesel, and lucky enough, I was somewhere reasonably okay and completely broke down and had to explain that I'd put petrol in a diesel car. Again, it was...
Again?
No, once. It was the brain fog. But again, people said, so what did you learn? Don't put petrol in a diesel car.
Pay attention.
It was quite funny.
Pay attention.
It was funny.
This one's a little happier. So what's your superpower? What is the one thing you are really stupendous at? Who's going to go first?
Sticking up for people.
Sticking up for people.
I like that.
Okay, that's your superpower.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Actually, organising activities and events that others really enjoy. And I get the enjoyment from watching them enjoy that.
What's your superpower, Jacinta?
Listening to people and getting into underneath what's concerning them, I think, really.
You and I can only have... A superpower is a superpower, isn't it? We can only have so many. Mm-hmm. Did you want another one? What is yours? Have you got one?
Well, my core power is resilience. I suppose my second one underneath that is probably organisation. I'm a bit...
You don't have to go...
pedantic. I have to be organised because everything that I'm doing. So for me, my superpower is I just... Whenever I get knocked down, I get picked up again. But I am has to be super organised with everything I'm trying to balance.
I think on my feet.
Yeah, you do.
I think on my feet. That's mine. The downside of that is I can't plan a damn thing. As soon as I have to start planning it, all goes wrong. Okay, right. We've done everybody's superpower, haven't we? This is something new that we introduced quite recently because I think as women, not just as people generally, we forget what we do really, really well. And very often, and certainly I think school is like this, is that school wants us to get better at what we're crap at. What's the point? Why don't we just focus on what we're really, really good at, get the basic skills in place and go, actually, what am I stunning at? Because I think the other side of it is that we don't realise what we're really good at. No. We're really good at something. We think everybody's good at it. Because I find it easy. I just assume everybody else finds it easy, and they don't. And we all have one thing that we're really good at. And that's what we need to focus on. And one thing that we really enjoy, which is very often the two things are the same, actually. Okay. Right, let us get down into the key discussion topic for this show, which is burnout. Burnout, what else do we... Can we... Burnout always sounds so final to me. I think there are other words that I'm getting... A lot of people are saying to me at the moment that I'm getting a sense of, which is overwhelm. Exhaustion also sounds like something you're never going to recover from. But exhaustion... tiredness, I think confusion. I think these are all words that I'm hearing quite a lot of. Some of the symptoms of this that I'm finding at the moment is, and Adelle, you may have some of this as well, is, for instance, when we have profiles, where we get profiles from people for the radio show, for exhibiting, for all of that sort of thing, that people have sort of booked and paid and they're all good to go, but the profiles aren't coming through because that's just one more thing that has to be done that they don't normally do. And it's, actually I can't, I'll have to do that tomorrow. And then I'll have to do that tomorrow. And we're getting quite a bit of that sort of thing coming through.
Absolutely. Basics, some of the basics. And I think people are, at the moment, just chasing their tails.
Yeah. And not much take-up for things like online, for networking and that sort of thing. People being quite tired, not feeling as though they can't get anything else in.
Yes. Yeah. And then again, the pressure of them costs are rising on some of the things we're trying to do. And and then if, like for me, my clients are business women, so if their businesses aren't going where they need them to go, then they could cut some of the work down with me. So you get this domino effect of women in business. So I think sometimes there's that sort of overwhelm. And also we've just now gone into the summer period where a lot of our women are trying to run their businesses and manage childcare as well, which I know is key as well. So some of that sort of overwhelm.
So burnout, overwhelm, just sort of being knackered. Jacinta, tell us a little bit about your background. So very quickly, how did you end up working in the field that you're working in, and what sort of people do you work with?
Yes, certainly. Well, I worked as a civil servant for over 35 years until I took early retirement as an opportunity that arose at that point. And during that time, I had 3 separate experiences of burnout, which are horribly destructive in your life, really, because they have consequences so wide-ranging. And each occasion was different. I always vowed it would never happen again, but it creeps up very slowly, and then you find yourself in the hot water, a bit like boiling a frog. And that's a silly analogy, but you suddenly find yourself in very, very hot water, and you can't do your job properly. It was always, for me, it was always related to having too much to do, a very busy workload. And the other common factor was that I didn't have sympathetic line management or support, and that definitely did make a difference, because I had other very busy jobs at other times where I was able to sail through them, and that was fine. So it was interesting that I had these similarities, but it affects the way you do your work. There's lots of feelings of panic and not knowing what to do first. It affects your social life, you withdraw. Ultimately, it did contribute to my marriage breakdown. So I understand just how it can affect people. And in the final episode of that, I also wasn't eating very well at all, and my immune system went very low. I got glandular fever, which affected me badly, and that was something further to overcome. So
I've had glandular fever. That is a very strange disease, isn't it? That is really long time ago, really weird. I've never been so ill, but not hurt. Very odd. I just want to pick up on something that that you said there, and perhaps put it in my words, which may be totally wrong. But I sort of got the sense that it wasn't necessarily how much work you had to do that led to the burnout, but how you either were doing it or were expected to do it, and the feelings around that amount of work. Does that sort of sound about right?
In actual fact, it was too much work, really too much, and it was seen to be so when it was properly looked into.
I said that because you said that that there were other times where you had a lot to do, but it was a lack of support.
Yes,
because I think there are sort of businesswomen who very often do have an awful lot to do, but then I look at other people who, you look at people like presidents and prime ministers, and you think, goodness me, what must they have on their plate? And they do have a lot on their plate, but it's the sort of the support network and what they're expecting of themselves, maybe, and what others expect of them, and what's sort of going on as to how they're actually doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And they do have big teams of people around them.
Yes.
I was overseas in the final circumstances that happened about 12 years ago, and so I felt very alone. That didn't help either. And of course, my experience is completely different to how it might affect other people.
Yes.
But I had what was known as a triple-hatted job, so 3 different separate sets of responsibilities, quite separate from each other, and I would sometimes have very competing priorities between each of those, and also from my head of mission. I was at an overseas at the Consulate General, and also from London, so I'd have all sorts of different people pulling on me, quite apart from people in my own team requiring my support or needing something. Anyway, I had this experience, and I understand very well how you feel, how it makes your body feel, the physiological feelings. And when after I left, I opened a small business which I mentioned. Ultimately, didn't succeed, and that set me onto the path that I'm on now. I've always had an interest in good nutrition.
So was the other business, that wasn't sort of health-based, coaching-based? It was something different, was it?
No, it wasn't at all. It was a shop,
like a product-based retail sort of thing, right? Okay.
Yes. So I started studying nutrition. I enrolled on a professional diploma of nutritional therapy, and whilst I was doing that, I began to see about health coaching. I hadn't heard of health coaching before, so I looked into that more, and I realised that was something that I would really rather like to add, because whereas in the nutrition I was studying what to eat or what not to eat, in health coaching we were looking more about when you were eating, how you were eating, why you were eating. Much more than just the what. I'm
looking through your bio here, and it looks to me as though this was, sort of cooking, not necessarily the health thing, but the cooking side of things was something that you were always sort of quite involved with, even as a child. And that where you've now ended up, if you like, is doing sort of what you probably wanted to do for most of your life. I don't know if it's a saying, but I have a belief that if there is something that you want to do or that you should be doing, if you don't take active steps to do that, the universe is going to step in and it's going to force you into that situation.
Yeah, somebody else said to me that this week, actually. Well, what do you like thinking about children before? What you like doing as a child, you could probably end up doing.
Yeah.
But if you don't do something about it, so if you're fed up working for somebody and you want to set up your own business, or I often use the example of like, you perhaps want to spend more time with your children, and there is, that's what you want to do, and there are several ways that can happen, isn't it? One of it, if you're employed, is that you can do a really crap job and you get sacked. You get to spend more time with your children there, don't you? Or you can set a plan in place to perhaps set up a business which enables you to work the hours that you want to work, and then you have a planned leaving. You have you plan your leaving, you plan your transition, and build in the time with your children over a period of time. But one of those things is going to happen. Either you do it properly, or you are going to bring about the circumstances that you might not want, because not everything we want comes wrapped up, or everything we need comes wrapped up in a great big bow as a gift. So, do you think that sort of you've ended up where you wanted to be?
Yes.
You just didn't make that decision before, and you had to go through this sort of period of time where it kept happening, and you kept getting a boot up the arse.
Well, yes.
And then eventually you ended up doing what it is you should be doing.
Yes,
You're doing what you should be.
Absolutely, I am. And I realise now that I know so much more. You know, I've got the techniques and understanding good nutrition of what would have helped me on those occasions, and it would have really made a difference. That I just can't help but work with other people.
Can I bring you back to? Can I bring you back to what burnout? And I realise that perhaps burnout feels differently for everybody. Everybody has their own experience, but there's a couple of things that I want to cover. It's what burnout felt like for you. And looking back, were there any feelings, anything that would have provided a clue? So if there's somebody out there who's thinking, I'm absolutely fine, I'm trotting on, you know, it's all right, I'm feeling a bit but I tell you what, I'm okay, I'm good to go, that perhaps will give them a clue that actually they may not be as okay as they think they are, and that there are steps that they can take now that are going to pull them back from that before they hit crunch point. So what was burnout for you?
You reach a point where you don't recognise yourself anymore. That you might be a bit snappy with people, or you're not remembering things as well as you were. You're juggling a lot of things. You're not sleeping very well. Quite often I would fall asleep exhausted, but then wake up in the night and lie awake for ages. All sorts of different things can happen, really. But you'd have like a bit of a fizzy feeling in your body. You just knew, and I guess it's adrenaline, because it's just racing around in your body when you know you've got certain deadlines to meet. And the ultimate, really, for me, was always a very strong feeling of wanting to run away, without knowing where the heck you would go or how you would do it. But.
So I had burnout.
Did you?
Yeah, that's what took me through my menopause. The chapter I wrote for the book, and I was on the BBC in October, and the title was "I was disappearing," and I was commuting between London and Edinburgh. You know, just outside the financial crisis, everything else that was going on, and I think the biggest way I was fine. But you're absolutely right. I was very good at covering it up, very good at doing everything was being told, and those physical symptoms is at the time. You know, I was just over my 40th birthday, so I was having hot flush after hot flush. I was going in the adrenaline, etc., and food. But I think the main thing is. I was looking into the mirror and I was disappearing. The only way I can describe that, I'm a bit of a Back to the Future, you know, I love the film, where Marty McFly looks at the photograph, and his family are disappearing. I just felt like I was disappearing, but I was ending up just attending the boardroom, doing the school runs, dealing with my parents, just on autopilot. And one day, I just wanted to run away. And in the end, I didn't, because I am resilient, so it was also my strength. And at that particular point, my Achilles heel. And do you know what? One day, I'd done the school run. I drove to my mum's, which I shouldn't have done, because I should have gone to go to the train station. I walked in the door, and she said, "Are you okay?" I went, "No." And as soon as I actually said no, I collapsed.
Oh, wow.
And then that was it. I took 4 months off. And then I obviously realised that actually the trigger for it was my menopause, and I was post-menopausal, so I went through it very, very fast. But it was triggered then by burnout, and that's what happened. I was just, as you said, disappearing. I was like, I know how that feels. It was awful.
Sam, Jules, have either of you either had or sort of approached burnout?
Yeah, I did through the pandemic.
Okay.
Working from home, managing home, dealing with lots of stuff going on within the
because
family.
you never, when you're at home, when you're working from home and you're at home, you're never away from it, are you?
No, and that was it. You know, whereas when you go to the office, you're at the office at 9 o'clock, you're there till 5 o'clock, whatever. Whereas when you're at home, it's, I'll just pop on and do that, or I'll just pop on and do this.
You're not actually concentrating. You're not focusing on any one thing, are you?
Absolutely. You're juggling multiple things, and you don't shut down from one thing to another. Didn't take time for myself. Was dealing with teenage kids and young adolescent kids and the problems they were bringing, and there was quite a significant problem being brought into the family home. So dealing with all of that, not by myself. My husband was physically there, but he wasn't emotionally there.
Yeah.
And I actually remember when you said sort of like you just wanted to run away, I was, how can I get out of this? How can I run away? Where can I go? Who can I go to? I'd also not long lost my dad, and I'd lost my mum some years previous, so I'd become an orphan, and that was a real sort of feeling, because I'm an only child as well, being that orphan, and then thinking the people that should be there to support me aren't, and I just wanted to run away. So yeah, I totally resonate with everything that's been said, and it's a horrible place to be in, but it's a great place to move away from as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jules, have you got an experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough journey, so there's been a combination of kind of burnout and breakdowns, and I think I'm very good now at recognising, I check my soul in the mirror each morning, and I'm at check that I'm still there, and that might sound ridiculous, but I do connect with my soul through my eyes in the mirror, and I say, are you okay? And sometimes I look in my mirror and I see that there's an issue.
Yes, glad.
And I can literally just go into the words, and I break down and I hug and I cry. I trust the trees. I trust nature. They literally nurse me through it. It's always a trigger when that happens. It's something's got to go or something's got to change. So it's a massive universal signposting. Something's wrong. So when I do that, when something's wrong, I wash it away in the words. I figure out what the biggest problem is, and I deal with it. I either leave the job or the man or the, I've left a lot of them. But I love it. When something's wrong, when something's destroying your soul, and when it's not okay, then you recognise it, you deal with it quickly. And that's so I'm professional at it. They come and they go.
I get that. I always keep a spare.
I've got some names.
My husband doesn't believe me.
It's Jasper at the minute, isn't it, Sean?
Yes. That's what I'm calling him anyway. Okay, so, I think what we're saying here is the biggest challenge is recognising it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I once had for me, it's the feeling of I've got too much to do, and in fact I've got so much to do I might as well not bother doing any of it, which I think is the running away thing. And the reason that I realised once that it was actually me and not the job, if you like, and I'm using job as in a lot of stuff, business, is I sat down and wrote it all out. I brainstormed the whole lot and timetabled it and then sort of applied numbers to it. This took a long time. But when I did it, I realised that I did actually have enough time. It was me. It was me telling myself I had too much to do, feeling as though I had too much to do, and actually not giving myself enough time to think it through, that I was on autopilot and racing. And so instead of... I felt as though I had too much to do, but I didn't. Not if it was planned. Yeah. Not if it was structured. And it was just a feeling of overwhelm. So, Jacinta, if somebody came to you, and how are people likely to, should we say, present to you? What is it that actually causes them to type something into Google or pick the phone up and come to you? What do they say?
Generally speaking, they are not feeling their usual selves. They know they're out of sorts and they're not comfortable with life. They're quite often a little overweight or more than they want to be, and there's not much joy in their lives, or not enough. And they ask me, what can be done about that? And so we just gently, you start with a discovery call, and we look at circumstances and see where the health goals might be, about where changes can be made, and we look to see how we can work.
Okay, so what's perhaps the first stage of recognition here, if that's what gets people to pick the phone up to actually start taking an action, is that they're not happy about something with their body, something that you can actually sort of measure, if you like. You sort of have an idea of whether you are overweight or whether you feel overweight. And it's that sort of thing that causes, or they don't feel well, or they're feeling tired. And so it's that brings brings them to you. So I've been on air now for a couple of hours, the words are going. And so what you're saying is that is a symptom of the perhaps impending burnout and other issues, not a case of eating more pies. They're eating more pies or too many pies because of something else that's happening.
It might the pies might be about comfort eating,
yes, yeah,
or about convenience, because
okay.
they're easy to grab when you're busy with everything else that's going on. But there's a recognition there that that's not really the way they want to be eating for themselves. So far, I have really been working with people, referrals and word of mouth, because I haven't had a website, although I've got one in construction at the moment. So people haven't been Googling me, which is why it wasn't quite so easy to answer that last question. They've generally heard of me, either directly or through somebody they know.
So your business is called Finding Your Balance. So I'm not sure. I've got a feeling that there isn't going to be an answer for this, because you're working sort of one-to-one with people. But so say somebody comes to you and they have those symptoms where they are overweight, where they're not feeling themselves. What is there a way that you can say, okay, well, this is very often the first thing that we will look at, or the first action that we will take?
I would always want to look at diet first. I really do think that diet underpins overall health and wellness. And quite often there are some fairly easy little tweaks that can be made. It doesn't have to be wholesale change at all. And things that can fit in with everyday routines and with the family. They don't need to be huge. It might be about when you eat, how you're eating. There may well, of course, be changes in what you're choosing to prepare or how you prepare it. But
so you're not recommending a particular diet for somebody, you're just tweaking what it is that they do.
I can help people move to a different sort of diet from where they are at the moment, or I can help people make changes within the diet that they're already eating. I don't have a particular diet to offer people, no.
I'm thinking that maybe this is a sort of by changing or looking at somebody's diet, and whether you do wholesale changes or tweaks, you're actually sort of doing two things here, aren't you? You're helping somebody potentially improve their health. Let's be sort of over the top here and say, okay, they stop eating the donuts, or they stop eating 3 donuts a day and go down to 2 donuts a week or something. So potentially there are actually sort of bodily changes that can help. But also when you make those little changes, it's something in your head, isn't it? It's an action, it's an activity, it's something positive that you're doing and taking to actually start making those changes. And it's very different, I think, to what I very often see, and I've done myself, which is, oh God, this is terrible, this is bulging out here, I tell you what, let's go out and get a load of diet books and I'll go on that diet, which then involves buying lots of different foods and changing absolutely everything I do, and sort of this wholesale massive thing which works for about a week and a half. In which case I realised, actually, this is really horrible. I don't like cabbage or eggs, really. And that isn't the way that I'm prepared to go. So you're just sort of making... They're sustainable changes, aren't they, actually?
That's what we're looking for, definitely. I mean, if people are going to be making changes to their habits, something that will be long-lasting, it needs to be small. So usually small changes, week on week, start to really build and make a difference. And it might be just something as simple as you need to eat a little bit more protein in your day. Not everybody eats as much protein as they should.
How much is
Adelle
there?
Eats a lot of protein.
Is there a? I've heard this before. Is there is there a figure that you can apply to that? If you weigh this much, you should eat that much protein. And also, I think sometimes people look at steak and they go, okay, well, that's, I've got a 5-ounce piece of steak here, that's that much protein. But it's not, is it? Because there's lots of other stuff in there as well.
A piece of meat isn't solid protein, no.
Yeah.
And it depends what it is as well, because it varies between them. There is a rule of thumb for how much protein you should have each day by weight. And I can't remember exactly what it is, because it's something like your weight in pounds. Half of what your weight in pounds is in grams, which isn't really helpful, is it, mixing up imperial and metric. But for an average woman, that probably works out at about 55 grams a day.
But that's protein. So that's not,
protein.
I'm going to eat that lump of meat or have those lentils, and that's how much they weigh. Therefore, that's what I've eaten in terms of protein. You really sort of need to get a little bit granular. I wanted to say granular.
Yeah, but there are some great charts, and with a client, I would look at what she likes to eat, chooses to eat, and how she might incorporate that into her everyday.
We need to wind up now, and I think what I want to finish on is something that you said, which I think we're going to pull it out into a quote, because I do like to have a quote, which is small changes week on week start to make a difference.
Oh yes.
Okay, I think so. That's the quote. Small changes week on week start to make a difference, by Jacinta Banks. So we're going to be putting that out, because I think that makes everything sort of seem manageable. And I think very often if we're approaching burnout, something along those lines, and we're feeling, oh my God, there's so much to do, there's too much to do, that you don't feel able to actually sort of stop and start. So, but there are little things that you can build in that are going to start improving it.
Absolutely. And one little thing, if I might add, is breath. The breath is so powerful, and there are certain breathing techniques that you can learn which really help your state of mind and your state of being and can relax you. I really do advocate that.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just sort of thinking that, yes, no, I'm thinking that through, yes, breathing, because very often we forget to breathe, don't we? We have everything sort of up in our shoulders and up the top of our chest, and we've forgotten that we need to take just a deep breath sometimes and stop. Jacinta, how can people get hold of you?
Well, I have a LinkedIn profile, Jacinta Banks, Health and Nutrition Coach. Otherwise, by email at jacinta.banks@findingyourbalance.co.uk.
Finally, finishing, is there one thing, just one tip that you could give somebody about avoiding burnout?
Share. Don't keep it all to yourself. Don't just withdraw. Have somebody you can share with, because it does really help that you're not alone.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody. So, Jacinta Banks, thank you so much. Burnout specialist, helping us all sort of keep on track. And Julie Hawkins from Single Mums Business Network, and Sam Presnell from, I'm going to say, the education people. Thank you so much. And we've got Kaylin in the corner, who is actually still with us and being really, really good, but she hasn't got a microphone. No. Thank you so much. I'm Sian Murphy. Thank you, and also goodbye for hello. Wake up. I'm here. From
I just think what a great show it's been.
We will see you all next week. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas, and inspiration to help you grow your business.